You are listening to No PC Allowed, aka No Political Correctness Allowed. And I am Mac Iverson. And we are meeting here in a very special place in our studio. I'm meeting with
Motorhome Mic.
Motorhome Mic.
That's me.
Awesome.
LogicalConservative.com.
Okay. And so we first met up in Big Bear. I was having coffee at a coffee shop, and I saw you with this wild bus. And it was crazy because I saw the first thing was Trump with his fists up in the air saying, "Fight, fight, fight." We all know, his famous expression. And then you had some other people on that bus too. Could you kind of explain what are you doing with this bus? What's the main point?
Okay, so the main point is about freedom of speech, whether you agree with it or not. Example, Trump's on the motorhome. That's who I voted for. Martin Luther King's on the motorhome. John F. Kennedy's on the motorhome. Iwo Jima. And what it's about is these people took a bullet, or now it's unfortunately Charlie Kirk's on the motorhome in the form of a rap piece. But these people have taken a bullet so that you and I could have freedom of speech, whether we agree or not. And it's not about me having to agree with you. It's about my freedom of speech. So that's my representation of freedom of speech, and that's what I believe everybody has. Of course, the First Amendment, and that's the way it is. So these loudmouth people that are out there screaming and yelling because they don't agree with you, that's their problem. And so that's what the motorhome's about: freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's for their freedom of speech as well, but they don't see that.
No, I mean, well, with the motorhome, as you know, you can't miss. Again, it's 45 feet long, it's 12 feet high.
Wow.
It's 48,000 pounds. It has the depictions of described Donald Trump, fight, 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 Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Iwo Jima, Charlie Kirk, the World Trade Center. So it's a rolling billboard. You cannot miss it. No matter where it goes, it sets their emotions one direction or the other.
Yeah, definitely. It really stuck out like a sore thumb. And there were some protesters. And as I was leaving after my first meeting with you there, I just happened to meet you. There was this one idiot who was saying something about Trump being a pedophile or something like that. And I rolled down my window and I yelled really loud, "The only reason you're here is because the bus is being very effective. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here at all." And he said some choice expletives at me.
Yeah, of course.
And my understanding is you had a run-in with that same incident. I saw him on the video because you have these videos on your website, and it's the same guy.
Yeah, so the guy one of the guys actually assaulted me there at one of these little protests on the corner. And so the sheriffs came and he was arrested and cited and all that kind of happy stuff. But the guy that rode by on the bike, yeah, he was some guy screaming, and you're absolutely right. When people go by, you can't miss it. And again, it's not about me having to agree with you. If you don't like what's on the side of it, I got a good idea. Go spend $500,000 for a motorhome. Go spend $25,000 for a wrap. Go drive the country like I did for 14 months. Have at it.
Right. I think a lot of it comes down to just simple jealousy.
Well, again, you have the Trump syndrome where people just can't handle it. And, it's kind of actually amazing because, as I've stopped at different places, and a lot of people will look at it and then they'll ask the same question, well, what is this about? And then, of course, freedom of speech. But then other people, they can't even see anything except Trump. And
yeah, that's all they see.
That's all they see.
All these other people famous throughout history, but all they can see is Trump, and they got the TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
They lose it. They lose it.
Right. So it's so sad.
Well, it just shows you the state of affairs and kind of what's going on. At the end of the day, bottom line is this. Again, our president has done more things in the last year than the other administration for 4 years. People look at what he's done. Look at he's stopped the borders. Look at all these things. All these things going on are because we have a leader and somebody that has the huevos to go out and make it happen. Not some guy hiding behind. He can't figure out which way to take to exit the door. The whole cover-ups, all the nonsense. This is about a guy who's saying, look, we're not putting up with this bullshit, and it's over. And so you people out there that have these problems of the Trump syndrome, or you don't like what's going on, I got a great idea. I'll give you my phone number. I will buy you a ticket out of this country, and I'll pay for it. As long as you agree not to come back. No problem. I'll do it.
Right.
So line up.
Yeah. These people aren't sincere, though. They're really not. They got like price tags attached to their pierced nipples. These blue and green, purple-haired people, they're such losers. They don't know who's pulling the strings. They're like pawns on the chessboard of the billionaires in China and all their proxies. And don't tell me that George Soros isn't behind this and in cahoots with China. And, their tentacles like an octopus that just envelops the entire world. And these idiots, these useful idiots, on the streets of Minnesota, they don't know how they're being played, and they're just pawns on a chessboard of us versus them politics. But it's all about money, really.
Yeah, so, to follow up on that, a lot of people out on the streets, they get caught up in the emotion of it, okay? They don't look at the facts. When you look at the facts, actually, I look at Minnesota now almost like a communist country.
Sure.
I mean, what's been going on there, listen, if you live in Minnesota, it's probably time to get out of Dodge. I mean, and it's not like they're being picked on. California is the next one ready to pick. And so all this nonsense that's going on, people get caught up in the emotion. As I was driving by to meet you, out on the steps of the courthouse, I see this Mexican flag waving. Great, Mexican flag. Take it to Mexico. You don't like it? Leave. Anybody that's illegal, you need to go. Now, should there be a way for them to get back into the country legally? Absolutely. But you have to do it the right way. And the fact, if you're out there protesting, strike one. That's one strike against you not coming back into this country. And so these people, now they're getting the little kids wrapped up in it and the high schoolers. And I drove by there and I think the average age out there was 15, and they're just caught up in the emotion. So what I'm getting at is a lot of people get caught up in the emotion and they don't look at the facts. Look at the facts. Look at the waste. Look at all what's gone on over the last 4 years. And if you don't see it and you don't like it, again, my number's going to be out there. Ticket out of here. No problem.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, like you're saying, if they have a problem with America, what are they doing here? Flying the Mexican flag, go back to Mexico and make Mexico great again. Because that needs to happen, too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe it should be the 51st state. There you go. That'd solve a lot of problems. It's interesting because I at one of the stops that I was at, I had this guy walking down the sidewalk, and I just simply said, hey, how's it going? And he said, F you and whatever. And that guy's a pedophile and this. And I go, oh, he is. So were you molested by him? Or I don't understand where you come up with this information. Well, I read it, and I go, okay, well, anyway. I go, I'm going to tell you something. Do you want to... You could be a pedophile on the internet in 3 seconds. All I have to do is say your name and where you're from, and it's gonna be on the internet forever. So if you don't like this country and you don't like what's going on, he was saying, because I asked him, I said, isn't America the best country in the world? He goes, no, not really. I go, well, who do you think is? He goes, well, I think Canada. I go, really? When do you want to go? Hit the road. Just check out. But they can't. When you confront them with facts, should men be in women's restrooms? You confront them with facts. All they do is they do the go around. Well, what about this? What about that? Trump is this, Trump is that. No, listen, at the end of the day, do you want men in women's restrooms? It's a very easy question. They cannot answer it. Do you think men should be competing against women? They can't answer it.
Yeah, it's all just it's a show. They're just trying to put on a show.
Yeah, why are they so pissed off? We're finding billions of wasted dollars. Why would any American be upset over that? Why would any American be upset over enforcing our laws? Oh, ICE is doing this. Look what they've done. Look, at the end of the day, bottom line is, it's kind of like George Floyd. If you'd have got in the car and not fought, none of that would have happened. If these people would just leave the country, right. Well, what about the innocent people? Listen, in any war, any type of confrontation, there's always some form of casualty.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the end of the day.
I mean, you're dealing with people.
Well,
people are imperfect, and this officer who shot Renee Good, personally, I think he looks pretty guilty on the first shot, not so much the second and third shots. But he, back in June, was dragged by a car going almost 50 miles an hour for about 100 yards. Do you think that might affect you? And I don't know what kind of psychological counseling he got after that, or if it was adequate. But do you think that might affect you and your job? And then they're easy to criticize, but they don't want to be the ones who go out on the streets and do the dirty job of what he has to do every single day.
I think we should do this. I think there's a great solution. You kind of hit on it. I think all these protesters, we need to deputize them and let them go out on the street and enforce the laws. I think that's a good way to do it. All you people screaming and yelling about how it's bad, go put the vest on, go strap it on, and go stand there while some people are blowing whistles in your face. And why don't you go do it? Why don't you sign up? Why don't you contribute something besides screaming and yelling and acting like a total jackass?
Yeah, that's one way to do it. That's tough love.
Well,
they'll fall flat on their face. They'll say, well, we need help. We can't do it.
Same people defund the police. They're the first ones to call 911. They go out on these streets. And I got another great idea. How about stay on the sidewalk? Don't get in the street where law enforcement is. Don't interrupt their business, and there won't be problems. It's when people run up on law enforcement. They're trying to do their jobs. Emotions are high on both sides, right?
Right.
And hey, it's called adrenaline, right? And things happen. And when you don't have a lot of time, bad things can happen. When there's not a lot of distance, bad things can happen. That's the rule. Right. Time and distance are your friend. So I got a good idea. Shut up. Get on the sidewalk. Stand there with your sign. You have the right to protest. You don't have a right to walk up to a guy with a whistle and blow it in his ear. You know what? I'm really surprised some of those guys, women, guys, just don't punch him in the face. Some guy's blowing a whistle in your ear right here. Mm-hmm. You're going to do something, right? So it's great restraint. Great restraint.
Yeah, really loud. Yeah, it's like I don't like paying taxes. I really hate the IRS. But why don't I get in my car and just run the barricades at the main office? And the reason is because I don't fear getting shot and killed. I expect I would get shot and killed if I were to do that. That's called being smart. But Good wasn't smart, and Prete he wasn't smart either. These are radicals. They've been radicalized, where it's just all emotion, like you said, and they're not thinking. They're not thinking at all.
And it's, here's kind of the interesting part. Having driven the country for the time I did, and meeting all the people that I met from Connecticut, downtown Manhattan, I'm telling you something. There are more people in favor of common sense government and are appreciative to what the administration's doing versus not. It's just the loud mouths that get the attention, that scream the loudest, that, hey, that's, quote, newsworthy, right? Who wants to listen to some guy stand there and be calm and say, gee, I really like this. I mean, this is great. No, you don't see it. So they seek out drama. They seek out, I don't know what that song was back in the 80s, but it was about the newscaster and the bleach blonde haired gal. And
that was Don Henley.
And they just go seek out the trash. Well, guess what? All you protesters act like this. You're trash. You're trash. You're trash. I don't know what else to say. You're absolute trash.
Well, the same thing with George Floyd. That was an election year. This is also an election year. And I'm not saying these things never happen in non-election years, but man, they really want to blow it up because they're going after the shallow or the too busy, undecided voter for November's election. That's really what this is all about. They're trying to persuade people who are on the fence.
Yeah.
And they're still out there. There's still people, I don't know if I'm going to vote for it or if I'm going to vote at all.
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing how people, they just can't think through a simple task. But at the end of the day, I keep saying the end of the day, but bottom line is, look, we live in the greatest country in the world. That's why everybody wants to come here.
That's our heritage.
Yes. So instead of trashing it, embrace it as the greatest. Keep it the greatest. Do something positive. Oh, the little soccer mom is out there with their Starbucks coffee interfering with ice. What are you doing? You know what? Get out of the way. Go have your Starbucks. I can tell you a whole Starbucks story in Connecticut. Yeah. Get out of the way. Go have your Starbucks and let law enforcement do what they're supposed to do. Here's something else interesting. I don't know if it's out there, but well, it's not out there. It's out there in information. But the administration is thinking about actually doing away with the federal income tax, and the tariffs cover it. So can you imagine as a worker, and now you're not paying federal tax?
Yeah.
That's like a 25% raise.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. We got rid of the tariffs, and there's, we need the income tax. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so these are
something to aim for.
It's something to aim for.
It's hard to imagine, but yeah.
No.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
No. So there you got it. You got people all over the country. And again, they get caught up in this. It's something for them to do, I guess. Instead of drinking a beer at home and sitting on the couch, hey, let's go down and let's protest. And let's run out in the street.
Right.
And let's create this little chaos. But there isn't as much of that as people would lend, or the press would lend you to believe. It's just isolated things. And yes, it is happening. There's no doubt. But a majority of the people out there are law-abiding, common sense, wanting better for them and their families. Here's the crazy part. There is no more Democratic Party. They're done. There's no more. Who's their leader? Who are these people? Gavin Newsom? Are you kidding me?
Where's the governor in there?
Walt? Can you imagine if Walt and Harris got in, and then we start, first of all, we probably wouldn't find out about this stuff in Minnesota. And how about that? Some young kid knocking on doors, blows it wide open.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, some 23-year-old kid with a microphone.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
He doesn't have all the...
It wasn't CNN.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the Minnesota legislators. It wasn't anybody. It's some 20, however old he was, had the guts to knock on a door and started picking up momentum. And you know what? That's what needs to happen more.
Yeah.
People
more
need
massively. We got to get the grassroots action is going to change this country.
And so that's part of the motorhome. The motorhome rolling around. Again, when you see it, you can't miss it. Wherever it stops, it's let's just call it a spectacle. Yeah, I'll pull into a parking lot like Big Bear at the Vons.
Right.
I pulled in there actually to get groceries that day because that was my ride.
Right.
I got there at 10:30. I left at 6:30. Because people want to talk about how proud they are of America.
Yeah, people are passionate.
But then you have the other people that go out of the way, like the guy on the bicycle. And actually, he went by, and that wasn't enough. He had to come back again, and that wasn't enough. And so it's like, listen, guy, you want to talk? How about have the guts? How about have the balls to do something right on interview where you're asked a direct question, not a fleeting questions you're yelling and flipping somebody off. Listen, just like driving around L.A. You go down, pick your city, go down the middle driving, and roll down your window and start screaming and yelling at people and flipping them off and see what happens to you. It's not going to be good.
Right. See, we're so used to being cowed with political correctness. I hate it. That's why I call my podcast No PC Allowed.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, it is. So you were telling about a story in Connecticut. Tell me a couple of the most standout, interesting, or oddball stories that you can think of, because you've been doing this for a while with your bus, haven't you?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
Over 14 months.
14 months.
And right now, there's a little breather. It's getting some repairs done and some stuff repairs that because of me primarily backing into a couple things. But it wasn't anything other than that. But the motorhome, it didn't start as what I thought I had no idea it was going to turn out to be what it is. Okay. And I didn't realize the depth of people's passion and love for this country. All right. And as I traveled the country, I started seeing it more and more, even pre-election. People were, oh, do you think Trump's going to win? Oh, do you? And I drove back where the Amish were. I drove places you wouldn't even take a car sometimes. And at the end of the day, it's that people wanted and needed to change, right? But some of the stories. So, for example, in Ohio, when I was on my way to Bernie Marino and Tucker Carlson event, I pulled off the side of the road, had a guy sitting off the side of the road, kind of, it looked like an abandoned gas station, and I was sitting there looking for directions, and he came walking up to the motorhome, and he's looking at every single picture as he walks down the side of it, and I'm looking at him in the mirror, and we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and so when he got to the door, I opened the door, and I go, hey, how's it going? He goes, oh, it's going good. He goes, what is this motorhome about? And I said, well, it's about our freedom. It's freedom of speech. It's about our right as Americans. And he goes, I'm a disabled veteran. And he goes, it's just amazing how people just don't understand what it costs for our freedom, even in peaceful times. But anyway, so I invited him on the motorhome. He walked the motorhome, looked at everything inside it. It's kind of like a museum. All the different signatures, Abraham Lincoln, all these different signatures. And when he got done, he got off the motorhome. Mind you, he rode up on a bicycle.
Right.
And he kind of looked like, you've seen the movie Forrest Gump, he kind of looked like Lieutenant Dan with legs.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, right.
And so anyway, as he goes down the steps, I'm standing on the second step, and he stops, he turns around, he reaches, back in his back pocket, he has one of those chain wallets, and he pulls out his wallet and he opens it up, and there must have been maybe 3, maybe 4 bills in there, I guess. The biggest one was a $5 bill that I could tell. And he takes it out and he motions to give it to me. He goes, I want you to have this. He goes, I know it costs money to operate this.
Right.
And ironically, it's $5 again. It's $5 a mile to run that thing.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, and I go, no, listen, inside this motorhome, there's a queen bed, there's TVs, you've seen it, a refrigerator. It's a house.
Right.
It's a nice house.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so anyway, he wanted me to take this $5 bill, and I said, no, I'm not going to take it. And he got that like crazy look on his face, like, he's been in the military. And he said, no, you're going to take it. He goes, because my freedom is worth $5. Now, this is a guy riding a bike out in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, living underneath the roof of a gas station, old abandoned gas station, and he wants me to take $5 because that's what his freedom is worth. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And then we'll jump completely the other way. So the 2 days after Charlie Kirk was killed, I get a call from a local chapter at the UConn, University of Connecticut, or I'm not going to call it the C word, but it's that word, the University of that word with a C. You know what I'm talking about? Ends in a T.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to get a lot of... But you are, okay? That's what you are.
I'm not politically correct.
Yeah, I'm not politically correct. It's a University of C, ends in a T, okay? And that goes for the guys.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm there. There's about 30 people there that have the Turning Point little club, let's call it. And so I was asked to go there, and I was about 80 miles away. And I thought, okay, this is important. It's important for support. So I drove to the University of Connecticut. We'll keep calling it Connecticut. And so I stop, do the little interview. I'm talking to the gal just right on the street. And the motorhome's right there. And I'm talking to her. And I said, so where were you when Charlie Kirk was killed, murdered? And she said, I was in my economics class. And I go, oh. And I go, and so what happened when you heard it? And she kind of looked at me and she kind of hesitated. And she said, 3/4 of the class stood up and clapped. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Evil.
Yeah.
Evil.
Okay. Well, it gets better. So, I shouldn't say better than that. So I drive down the street. I stop at the Starbucks, the local Starbucks. I've got my camera out. I go walking in there, or I should say, I always have my camera on me. And hanging there was a gay pride transgender flag. So I thought, I'm leaving. And I thought, no, wait a minute. So I turned around and the manager was there. And I said, ask for the manager. The manager came out. I go, hey, where's the American flag? She goes, what do you mean? I go, well, where's the American flag? I see that one. Where's the American flag? Well, Starbucks has given us certain latitudes of what flags we can fly. And I said, so where's the American flag? And she said, well, we voted, not to. I go, no, listen, okay, you don't vote about the American flag. The American flag is the American flag, okay? So that needs to be up. As I'm leaving, some little loudmouth Connecticut, ends in T, comes walking up and goes, what is this motorhome all about? And I go, what's about our freedom of speech? It's about our right. He goes, well, that guy right there, that Donald Trump, he's a piece of shit, and on and on and on. And I look at him, I go, I'm going to tell you something. If it wasn't for, set that aside for a second. The other person that's on there just as of 2 days old is Charlie Kirk, who was murdered, assassinated. And the kid with a C, ends in T, right, said he deserved it. Now, I looked at him and I turned off my camera. I go, I'm going to tell you something, you little shit. These people on this motorhome are why you can stand there and even open your mouth. Well, I'm an engineer, a biolog, whatever the heck he was. And I go, okay, and that's another freedom. Okay, let me tell you something. Go to Russia. Go to a country like that, and you go say that about Putin, or you go do, and you see what happens to you. You'll be in prison if they can find you again. And I go, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on the limb here. I'll bet you your parents are paying for your college. You don't have a job. You don't have a car, and you're just here creating all kinds of havoc where you can. He goes, well, that's your opinion. I go, no, it's a fact, isn't it?
Yeah, because he didn't argue with you.
Yeah, and then he started using every explicit, he could use,
you
right?
got his number.
I got his number.
Like,
I go, so give me your number. I'm gonna call mommy and daddy and tell them what you're doing. So this is what I run into.
Yeah.
And so, but 80+% of it, 85%, I'm not stretching it, is if people that don't agree with you, they just look and they really don't. Nothing. The people that are the biggest mouths and want the attention or whatever you want to call it, the other 10%, 15% maybe, actually it's probably less than 5%, create these scenes. And I have reels, I have stuff I've had people pull over in cars in front of me, stop, get out, and start going to town. Yeah. What kind of person in their right mind, especially with all these states that have carry now, and all these things you can do, would jump out of a car? So I'll give you a little hint when I'm sitting in a place, what I look for of if I think there's going to be something that's going to go south on me. Number one, generally they're driving a Subaru.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember you told me that.
Yeah. Number two, it's a middle-aged female. Number three, when the female gets out, she's wearing sweatpants and just looks like hell. Looks like she had her head out the window. Right? Yeah. And I don't know for sure, but she's probably divorced with 2 kids, so she hates the world. But having said that, so that's the woman's side. The guy side, generally, not all of them, but most of them, they're wearing the let's all get along shirt, or the tie dye with a peace sign. And I grew up in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
With a ponytail, or a man bun. Okay, so when I see those people and they're walking toward the motorhome, my camera's rolling, and I'm not disappointed most of the time.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a certain profile.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I go way out there on the limb.
Right. That's good. That's good. I love hearing those stories. I really do. Doesn't surprise me. Do you fear for your safety? You're a guy who can take care of himself.
Well, here's what's interesting. I don't fear for my safety. I fear for people doing something stupid that they're going to wind up being in a worse off position.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay,
gotcha.
So yes, can I take care of myself? I'm 67, going on 68. I've been around the block. Like I said, I can kind of size things up at the end of the day. I had a guy of all places in Huntington Beach, which is about as red as you can get where I was, threatened me with a knife. He came up to the motorhome, started doing his thing. I asked him to leave. He said, it's freedom of speech. I said, you're right, it is freedom of speech. And that wasn't good enough. He pulled up a shirt and said, I should just stab you right here. So I've had confrontations where I've had to just sort of defend myself at an extreme level. But, anytime you're rolling around in a 45-foot motorhome with, whether you agree with it or not, my choice of president of the United States, and of course Kennedy's there, Charlie Kirk, et cetera, there's a certain element of people get wacky.
Right, sure. Now, was Charlie Kirk, was he ever on your bus?
I met Charlie Kirk about a month and a half before he was murdered. I met him at an event at Bedminster Golf Course, and we had a nice discussion. He even had mentioned introduced me to his project manager and how we should probably coordinate some things. And his quote to me was, let me get through this first event, and then I'll have them contact you. Well, the first event was Utah.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but no, he had not made it on the motorhome. But he had signed some things for me. They're posted on the motorhome, just like Trump, just like presidents on the motorhome. And of course, I have this big decal turning point on the side of the motorhome, just right next to Trump. Again, I pose this question out there. If there is someone within, let's just say the last 50 years, that someone legitimately comes up with that took a bullet for freedom, let me know, because I'll put him on the side of the motorhome. Okay.
The only person I can think of is Gandhi, but that's so
well, no, U.S.
Most people,
no. The only other one that I can think of is Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on the side of the motorhome. Right. So I'm not opposed to, I'm not going to say one of our latest presidents, but if they are past, recent, if they had been shot and killed or shot, I'd probably put him on the motorhome.
Yeah.
But name one. Anybody out there listening, name one. Give me somebody.
And I even asked ChatGPT that question, because I was curious what it would say, but it shocked me. I asked for, what are the top 5 martyrs for freedom of speech over the past 30 years? And they came up with 5 names I'd never heard of. Not Charlie Kirk? No.
Isn't that amazing?
No. Charlie Kirk was not even mentioned.
It's crazy. And so the mindset out there, again, with Turning Point USA is that, here you have a guy that, as we know, was just speaking the truth, whether you agreed with it or not, it becomes your truth or his truth, but was not out there. He never disparaged anybody that I saw. If there is a disparaging, losing it, send it, right? I want to see it. But he was never seen it. And so, and that same guy gets shot, gets killed, gets murdered. And it goes deeper than just the knucklehead quote on the roof. I don't buy into that at all.
Right. Oh, no, it's a conspiracy theory it's not a conspiracy theory, it's actually a conspiracy of hatred, which is manufactured by mostly billionaires, the World Economic Forum, Council of Foreign Relations, and all their associations with China, because China, on the day they were born, way back, I think it was 1949, was it? 1949? Is they wanted to bring down the great Satan, just like the Muslims, the United States of America.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. They planned that from the very beginning.
But yet, anybody in China, if you ask them, they want to come to the U.S.
Yeah.
They invest in the U.S.
Yep.
They educate in the U.S. Hey, I got a good idea. If you don't I have a great policy for China. Don't let anybody come to the U.S. to live here, to educate here. You take care of it at your end. And here's the fact of the matter. The United States, there isn't one thing the United States needs from any country to be a country. There isn't one thing. There isn't one mineral. Oh, would we want more? Yeah. There isn't one barrel of oil. Would we like more? Yes. There's nothing. Zero.
Every excuse, even for legal immigration, is very sketchy. I don't think we even need it. We just need a stronger middle class. The government needs to support the people who are native born in this country, and then we'll stop looking, because when the Chinese come over here, a lot of them, they're spies. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, being out on the road, this is the other thing that I noticed. A lot of the middle, let's say, or when I say like us, that have certain opinions that, are just, some of them are very mild and some are stronger. But the mild and the medium ones, they just don't really want to get engaged, involved. They don't, I didn't put a sticker on my car because it scares me vandalized. And I look at them, I go, you see that over there? That's 45 feet long. Okay? That's about the biggest bumper sticker you can have. I get it. But why would we, as free society with the freedom of speech, have to worry about putting a sticker on our car and it being vandalized? Yeah. That just goes beyond. It's like when all this was happening with Musk. I saw Tesla that said, I bought this car before, Musk was part of the government, the DOJ, right? Isn't that amazing? So these same people were putting bumper stickers on their car and say, hey, leave my car alone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's just a car. I've had bumper stickers vandalized. I've had many times my car vandalized because of it too. I'm sure you probably had it with your bus.
I've had very minor. But here's what you have to realize about that bus motorhome is it's bigger than life. There's more going on with it. If you get near it, and you shouldn't be, it's not going to be good. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. Very good. We've gone very long here, but I appreciate it. I'm glad we did, Michael Wayman. Action steps. I always try to wrap up my podcast with action steps. What can we do? The listener, you, me, what can we all do? Is because the election's coming up, and it's not really looking that good so far, is it?
Well, it's a wobbler, meaning it's really not decisive. But that's typical in a midterm where the House seats. But one is support the podcast like this. Support them. Guess what? It costs money. Okay, $1, $5, $10, $20. Guess what? It adds up. It pays for gallons of fuel. Support people when they want to do something. Oh, I give to the wounded dogs or something. You know what? The USA is a wounded dog in some ways. Mm-hmm. Start giving money to these people that are out there on the street. I'll tell you one thing that really shocked me being back in Florida. Here that's a red state, and I thought, man, talk about make it happen. I've never seen so many kind of like rhinos, as they call them, pitting against each other. Why? They don't spend the money on the street. They just want to go to parties and take pictures with Trump, but they don't spend the money on the street like for you and I that are out here with driving our cars, meeting, buying lunches, for ourselves, fueling the motorhome. Right. Again, it's $5 a mile. So support thebus.com. Support where you can, and support the podcast.
Right. Very good. Very well said. All right, Michael Wayman, I appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you or stay in touch? You have a website?
Yeah, you can go on to logicalconservative.com. You can go on the website supportthebus.com, and you'll see reels on there. There's actually buttons where you can click on for donations. You can pick any donation that you'd like, $1, $10. You can buy our merchandise online, and that's how they can support us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You've been listening to No PC Allowed. I am Mac Iverson.